but it's all just, it doesn't look like it could ever be published. That's the point, right? Humans are very stupid, okay? We really are very stupid as a species. Impressions matter. This is why people have good covers for their books, you know? Look at this cover from Lies of Locke Lamora. I would like to look at a professional example. Welcome back to why good writers don't get published.
Why? Why?
Britney and Jennifer. These are two writers. Jennifer is Contessa Dark, for those of you who know her alter ego, right? So basically, these two viewers submitted their first chapters for analysis in the chapter 1 analysis series, and so that's what we're doing today. And here's the story here. Here's something I have for you. Good writers don't get published. You'll see many people that have not really had their first publishing success, but they really write good stories, fundamentally good stories. There is always something that is worth looking at, something that they do very well. And so today we'll be talking about these two books. Where do they mess up? So one of them messes up less than the other. And as is tradition in this channel, I'll be spending much more time with the drama, okay? Okay? And I hope you can all be patient. You know, I might be harsh, but come on. The only way to make this useful is to be blunt, okay? I will not be an asshole, but I'll be blunt, right? So, I almost forgot. I have to make an announcement that this particular story by Jennifer, by Britney, this chapter of Elena, the warning, as well as the Kyle chapter that you'll get to see later, are copyrighted, all right? Don't do anything silly. She'll take you to court and steal your house, all right? So don't do it. So the biggest problem with Britney's writing here is one simple problem. One simple problem. And I will read the first paragraph, and I hope you can spot that problem. Okay, it goes, my eyes grazed over evergreen and sea foam colored needles, the rays of light trying their best to touch the rough, brown trunks of the tall pines before me. Can you see the problem in the first sentence? Sea foam colored needles, the rays of light trying their best to touch the rough, brown trunks of the tall pines before me. I scrutinized these omnipresent sentries, trying to ascertain, all right, why, with growing intensity over the past few months, I was drawn here and failed. So there is a good story here. And this is why I initially said that Britney, is among the good writers who don't get published. Because here, I was drawn here and failed is actually a very interesting story. It entices you. The mystery is intriguing. It captivates you. I am intensely curious as to how she was drawn here. And as you will actually come to see, this drawn is literal. She has literally been drawn here against her will, like some mind control, okay? There's like spasming going on, all right? My body shuddered and moved from input I had not given it. So she was drawn here. There is an intense curiosity. And there's a good story here. But the problem is the purple prose. If you spotted it, you are good, all right? Look at this. Graced over. Look, this is backed. This is crammed with too many adjectives. They essentially cloud the good point, the good story, which is I was drawn here and failed. Why was she drawn here and how did she fail? What did she fail? Resisting, of course, right? And seafoam colored needles, the rays of light trying their best to touch the rough, brown trunks. Okay, trees are described in many ways here. You have the rough, then brown, then the trunks being rough and brown. Two descriptions there. Then you have tall pines, 3 descriptions. Omnipresent sentries, 4 descriptions. I mean, that's too many descriptions about trees. I'm not sure if the trees are important here or the story is important. This is why purple prose is very, very deadly stuff that writers have to watch out for, because it's your first impression. It's like makeup, or you know, putting on a good good dress, a good suit, or having a nice haircut. If you're a guy, the prose can really get you published. You could be an awful writer, but prose will get you published, because we're talking about the realities of getting published. This is why so many books out there are terrible structurally and in terms of story. They will never have a story as good as Britney, but they'll get published because they'll have much better prose. The prose is key here. It's presentation. You strike a good first impression. And never forget, the agent is a human. An agent is not a god. They don't have omni or superhuman psychology where they're immune. No. A good first impression is really going to leave a lasting impact on an agent, and also on publishers, eventually convincing them, because they are humans, and all humans can be controlled and convinced. All right, it's very straightforward. We continue. The same problem continues here. A structurally sound and good story is ruined by awful prose. The pines, we're talking about the pines again. There's no need to continue to talk about them. We're hundreds of feet tall. Okay, tall pines, and packed, right? Packed. It was communicated by, of course, the light trying their best, right? The light rays trying their best. So of course it's packed. I know it's packed. I cannot imagine anything else. I didn't imagine a desert with few trees, in so close the branches had interlaced with each other, their trunks easily matching the widths of the houses in town. Okay, again, houses in town, tall. You communicated tall many times. This is bad word economy. This is not efficient. The shadows beneath, by the way, people say be efficient as if that's really all there has to be. I'm not saying that you always have to be efficient. It's okay to actually, overwrite sometimes. Right? But the skill here is in moderation. Figure out when to overwrite and when to underwrite and when to write precisely. And in this, when you're opening a book, you need to write precisely. Overwriting in this particular example will actually leave you with a bad impression. The shadows beneath the canopy were noticeably denser. I want to know she was drawn here and failed. Please, I don't want to know about the shadows. As though the light abruptly halted. Another thing is that this is too many descriptions. It's purple prose. It's unnecessary. There are too many adjectives. The dark, the shadows beneath the canopy were noticeably denser. Abruptly halted. Somehow a wall. Okay, yeah, finally we get back to the story. The second paragraph should have started here. Not here. You need to cut all of this. The second paragraph needs to start here. Because we know she's moving in a jungle. In some sort of an evergreen, like some rainforest or something like that. I don't know. I stepped forward, and my closeness revealed blackness like a vertical ocean. The light and dark swayed against each other, like roiling water, revealing parts of thick needle-strewn ground. Okay, man, we got this, Britney. Britney, there's no need for this. This is unnecessary. Ground disappeared and the dark settled over what it had shown. The story continues. The story picks up finally in this sentence here. The hair on, the back of my neck rose. Right? I lifted my head and my vision narrowed, only seeing the blackness. We continue here. Rose with that of my arms as a weight pressed against my body, paralyzing each muscle. She's being controlled or something like that. I tried to move my fingers, my arms, my legs, but something else had control. Yes, she was drawn here against her own will. I would like to know. I am interested. I don't want to know about the trees. The tall pines can, go home. My body shuddered and moved from input, and I had not given it, right? So you can see how this story is clean. Why? Because it's structurally moving forward in an efficient, focused way. Britney gives this: I was drawn here and failed. Then she steps forward. She lifts her head. And here we establish the reality that she doesn't have control. Something has drawn her here. And then her body, there's this convulsive movement. This is a story. She doesn't make the cardinal mistake that a lot of people make in chapter 1, where they meander around. Britney does not meander around. She writes an efficient story, an efficient plot. She's being dragged here. And I will show you, by the way, this pattern of good writing continues. But it is all derailed. It's all, shoved around by the fact that she is writing with highly inefficient, bad word economy, and also thick purple prose. Okay? Eventually, Velina, Kyle comes, another guy. Something closed around my shoulder, brushing my collarbone is slightly warm and firm as the action caused my body to disconnect. The control, the control is gone. And my senses to come back to life. I slackened painfully as every muscle released tension simultaneously. Because she wasn't controlling herself, right? Here, Kyle comes, this guy, Kyle, and they have a conversation, right? Let's continue, right? The purple prose really does not stop there. But, her and Kyle have a conversation. Kyle is worried and concerned, and she tells him, Kyle, I'm fine. I gave too quickly, which earned me a quizzical look. He was skeptical of my answer. I sat down, smoothing my dress beneath my legs. Velena, Ilandi may have destroyed most of the anomalies, but to say they're all gone would be impossible. I don't want you to get hurt. You can see how this is going back, destroyed most, right? Most of the anomalies. It goes back to the original story where she was being controlled, right? But you still really have purple prose, even in the descriptions of the dialogue. I know this will sound unbelievable, but I think the woods want me, right? It sounds ridiculous, right? Why would a bunch of trees want me? As you can see, the story is focused. Britney doesn't make the mistake of having an unfocused story. Her dialogue is fine. Her world building is fine. Her ability to conjure up mystery and get me very curious about the story is impeccable. It's really brilliant. Enough to get her published, but this is what's stopping. The purple prose never stops. And in fact, the focus is oftentimes derailed, not by the wrong topic, which, speaks positively of Britney, but at the same time, it's derailed simply because of just too many unnecessary words. Let's talk about Contessa Dark. All right, that's an epic name. Let's talk about this chapter 1 from Jennifer, right? So how does this improve upon that? So first of all, from the get-go, you have a much more direct opening line that essentially hooks you. However, let's first of all read it. His archer had one arrow left. Still, that bloody handmaiden was within range. It's very direct. There's no like bad word economy. There's no unnecessary descriptions of tall pines. It's very, very straightforward. Did he dare? With its last shot spent, he would have to remove the beast from the board. Right? It's worth it, Amnon decided. Her handmaiden's withering aura was keeping him from grouping his cavalry. And, at the end of the day, this game, one more piece and he would have the straight line formation needed to sweep her side in a charge. And ultimately, you can see how this is a much more direct, this description of this game they're playing. It's a very, very straightforward, very, very direct stuff. Nothing really, over extraordinary. Like, I'm not dying from amazement, but at the same time, whatever is described is not derailed by bad word economy, by terrible purple prose. On top of that, the prose in this story is very beautiful because it does not use repetitive sentences. it uses different sentence structures and different sentence lengths. So you can see his archer had 1 arrow left. Still, that bloody handmaiden was within range. Did he dare? You have medium range to small range and then to something much, much longer. The prose in this particular story is really publishable level. In fact, it's very, 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 very impressive. My favorite bit of this particular prose is here, the description of the honor guard that brought his wife long time ago. Yashana's honor guard had come hooded and robed in nothing but tattered burlap and sailcloth, cutting a swath through the garish festive audience. The ancient women in grey had smelled overwhelmingly of the sea. Each of the steps had come with a tinkling rattle of shells and the slither of heavy burlap trains dragging over the stone floor that left the huge congregation in unnatural silence. Memory of the hideous sound. Later, she goes on to describe what they look like. Straight and tall they had walked. Their faces had not been carved with the care of age, but planned into smooth angles, cut with salt and creased with withering scorn. The one in the lead had had a mouth that did not smile, but the white sharp edge salt flakes that crusted her lips had given him the impression of triangular teeth, the kind that might flash in the grinning mouths of sea monsters before they gnashed down. So this is, it's really remarkable prose. The prose in here is publishable quality. It's above that. So you can see how a story like this can leave a very good impression. But I genuinely do not think that the story of Jennifer, beyond the prose and beyond the good pacing, is really any interesting. The mystery is not as strong. With Britney, you have a very good mystery. You have a focus with the character. You have a focus on the human conflict here. She was drawn here. Something had drawn her. What is that? And then you have a much better, you have a, equally good, not better, but equally good structural editing, where you have, the story go on then between Valena and Kyle, discuss and talk about basically how or what happened, or what was drawing her in. And so it's a very well edited story, and it's a much better character driven story. In here you have fun game, 2 individuals, a wife and a husband, the prince Amnon, right, the prince Amnon and the princess. And so and she's his wife and she's pregnant. And you have a very simple story. There's Yashana, there's nothing that is equally as impressive when it comes to how hooking or how impactful the mystery is. There is no mystery here. It's more of a trying to immerse you, but trying to immerse you through what? Through the good prose. Okay, through the good prose, it's trying to immerse you and bring you into this particular situation where you can live with the characters. So it's a very beautiful story but at the same time it is structurally deep down. When it comes to the mystery elements, it's not as good. So you can see that Britney has advantages, but at the same time those are derailed and damaged by the purple prose. And you can see in this story those advantages of strong mystery, they don't exist. But if I were an agent, I would be picking up this story from Jennifer, Contessa Dark, So you have to really be very careful. The prose in here is very, very well structured. In fact, I remember when I read it, I was very impressed. And I was like, wow, this is, this is going very, very well. But ultimately, I realized it's just that this story has better characters. Britney has better characters than Jennifer. She just does. And a much more character-driven story. And a much more impactful characters. Right? but it's all just, it doesn't look like it could ever be published. That's the point, right? Humans are very stupid, okay? We really are very stupid as a species. Impressions matter. This is why people have good covers for their books, you know? Look at this cover from Lies of Locke Lamora. I would like to look at a professional example of Lies of Locke Lamora here, right? Prologue, the boy who stole too much. As you can see, the prologue in Lies of Locke Lamora, it's very, very beautiful prose, much like Jennifer, but at the same time, you know, it has actually an interesting story. So when you put together the advantage of Britney, better, you know, interesting characters and an interesting mystery, and then beautiful prose, you have professional book that is highly critically acclaimed, like Lies of Locke Lamora. At the height of the long wet summer of the 77th year of the Sindovani, the thief maker of Como paid a sudden and unannounced visit to the eyeless priest at the temple of Perelandro, desperately hoping to sell him the Lamora boy. Lamora boy. Who is the Lamora boy? Who is the eyeless priest? The thief maker. Why is he a thief maker? Of course, you know, this guy makes criminals. He paid a sudden, unannounced visit. It's so intriguing. It's so interesting. I would like to know more. But it's also very clean, very straightforward, and beautiful prose, right? Have I got a deal for you? No need for additional descriptions of nonsense. We just get directly into the story. That's beautiful. The thief maker began, perhaps inauspiciously. Another deal like Carlo. Basically, you know, I'm not trying to really read this story for you, but you can see also in the 5th season by A.K.A. Jemisin, first book in the Broken Earth trilogy. So in the Broken Earth trilogy, the first book in the prologue, you are here. Let's start with the end of the world. All right. How about that, huh? Let's start there. Let's start with the end of the world. Why don't we, huh? Why not? Why not? I love this book. Get it over with and move on to more interesting things. Yes. It's so interesting, but the prose is actually the most beautiful. Among Jennifer and, of course, Scott Lynch with Lies of Locke Lamora, you know, N.K. Jemisin has the best prose and has the best characters. And she also knows how to hook you. And she doesn't really have purple prose. You can see a book like this, even if it's a terrible book, you can see it just by simply reading this. You have a very beautiful, good first impression. So, you know, you have to understand purple prose is very damaging to your prospects of getting published, all right? And I don't really want to go on all day. If I were to rate between Britney and Jennifer, I would still go for Britney's story. I would still be going for Britney's story. It's a much more interesting story. I'm a character nerd, right? But this has to be edited. It has to be edited. The prose is bad. The prose is overdone. It's just overdone, okay? The prose needs to be as beautiful as Jennifer, right? This is really amazing prose from Jennifer, all right? So that's where I'm going to leave it. That's where I'm going to end it. And I hope that you took something from this. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you.